Hey everybody, welcome to Sideline Takes. We have so much to get into. I'm William Pierce. This is Carl Silva. I'm a Laker fan, LeBron, big fan, Carl Silva over there with the San Antonio Spurs for life. And like I say, so much is going on in the NBA. We're here. We want to break it all down. And it starts with Summer League, Carl. We got Summer League starting July 7th. Just before that, we got our Lakers and Spurs in the California Classic in Sacramento, July 5th. That's going to be huge. That's going to be huge. We got a lot of big players. Obviously you just drafted Victor Wembanyama. He's not playing in the Classic, but then he's going to be in the Summer League. We can't wait for that. I mean, that's just right around the corner. Here we go. It's
Weeks away. We're weeks
almost
away.
Independence Day, and then it's really happening. It's on. The CBA is just changing everything, and we're still getting our heads around this. It's gonna reshape the NBA. Pretty massive changes. All the GMs are really having a tough time figuring out what can we do. We're gonna get into that. And finally, we're hearing a lot of things about the trade market. It is pretty nuts out there. All the different possibilities, the way things could shake out. So let's dive in. Carl, tell us what you see, what you're thinking about the California Classic.
I'm disappointed that we're not going to get to see Victor, but I mean, that's to be expected. We're likely not going to see LeBron James either playing in the California Classic if he's saving himself for the playoffs.
Right.
We just have to accept that. But there's still going to be a lot of great players playing in the California Classic, and a lot of the new draft picks are going to be playing in the California Classic. Spurs play Hornets to start, and they're going to be seeing the number two pick.
Right. Right off the bat.
What's that?
Right off the bat. You're right.
Yeah, yeah. hmm But it's really just a time for younger players to just get some experience. I think get to understand the game, get a little bit of that NBA pace,
Hmm.
and to get to know their teammates and the coaches. And for the Spurs in particular, just getting to know how Pop operates and what he expects from his team, and how to make yourself coachable for someone like him.
Right.
So I'm excited. I'm expecting to see, I guess, the first signs of what could be of a Spurs dynasty. I mean, I'm not too early to say that, right?
No, I mean, if you were ever gonna hope, it's now. And so I'm wishing the best. You know what I mean? I'm not a hater. I want it. I want you guys to be real tough and for Pop to have his rise back up. I'm all about it. I mean, he's a great coach. Spurs are a class organization and they deserve to be one of the top teams in the NBA. And they now have the big man Victor. So let's
Yeah.
go. Let's go.
And there is a renewed energy in San Antonio right now. It's like Wembanyama town now.
Hmm.
Everyone is just jumped on to what's about to happen, and I just hope that all of his preparation with his feet pay off, and that we don't see a lot of injury from him, and he doesn't just become Zion.
Right. Well, tell me about the Spurs Summer League roster.
Well, thankfully, they announced that Victor will be actually in Vegas
Good.
for the Summer League, so we will get to see him there. Unfortunately, we won't be seeing our blonde friend Soshan play in the Summer League at all. He may be overseas. He may be in Europe, just traveling right now. But we are going to see our other 2023 pick, Sissoko. So I look forward to seeing him in a Spurs jersey and seeing what he can do in Summer League. We also have Justin Kier, who came down from Austin from the G League. So this will be his opportunity to see what he can play like.
That's going to be great. You can really see what the guys are made of. We have got here on the Lakers side, um, a little bit of name people, I suppose. Scottie Pippen Jr. Um, Scotty has really made some noise. I guess you heard about all the things Scotty's been saying. Maybe we get into that later in the show, but
Larry Bird.
that was Dennis Rodman said that.
Oh, Dennis. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but Scotty and Michael, they're done. Um,
Well, school me later.
yeah. Scotty Pippen Jr. we have. Max Christie, he's our pick from last year. He actually got some playing time this year, but he wasn't able to do too much. Anyway, he's a wing player. Maybe he'll develop into some kind of decent defense. Sharif O'Neal, we have Shaq's son also. Um, all these guys are going to be at the summer league, so let's see if anybody comes out on top. For us, it's really just about maybe we're going to have one or two of these guys that show out, squeeze onto the team. Um, More than anything, it's going to be LeBron coming to some of these games on the sidelines, kind of whatever sort of backdoor dealings may be happening. There's going to be some of that, as in all the LeBron years of the past here at the Summer League. There will be some talks about trades. Will Kyrie be sitting across the aisle? Will Damian Lillard be sitting across the
I
aisle?
was just going to
Who,
ask, who do you
who's
think
with
is
who? Well,
who
because
do you think is going to be there? What star do you think LeBron's going to be hip to hip to?
right. It at this point, Kyrie would love to be there, and I don't know if that's. They seem to be trying to make it work, but I don't think there's any way, and they kind of gave up. But that doesn't mean he's not going to be sitting there just to perplex us all. You know.
Did I misread that he said he really likes it in Dallas? Okay,
Well, what Kyrie says in the morning is not what he says in the afternoon, and
touche.
and I saw today that he's meeting with the Suns also.
Oh,
So
I did hear that. Yeah, yeah.
who it could be Harden? Harden may show up. They got strip clubs
That's
in
the other big
Vegas,
news. No,
obviously,
that's the other big news. He opted into his option,
in order to
and
be traded.
they're looking at trade talks.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
I would not take James Harden if I was a Lakers fan.
No, I don't want him. I don't see any use. I don't see any use for him. We're just saying who could Brian be making eyes at on the at Summer League? It could be any of these players. That's going to be kind of the main thing we're looking at, honestly, because win or lose, nobody's going to put much emphasis on that. It's just kind of go to Las Vegas, have some fun, see these young guys, and then it'll be right in the heat of the moment in terms of all the trade talking. So that's it for us.
Who do you think needs the most PR for something like that? Who do you think needs their team to know they might be wanting to join LeBron James so that they can get a better deal? Do you think it's Draymond?
That's a good answer to that question. Draymond is gonna, yeah, Draymond could be sitting there. But we just don't know what's gonna happen with him. Obviously, he's got to want to stay with the Warriors, but if he it doesn't, if that doesn't pan out, there's no way he's not trying to go to the Lakers, and be with LeBron. I mean, where else could he go that he would feel home? Um,
You know
that
who
would be
needs him? Milwaukee needs him.
well, that's true. Yeah, I could see that, but I mean, you get hooked on the West Coast. I just feel like Draymond is maybe we'll just have the one team in his mind, and he'll be a free agent as well.
What do I kid? Dallas needs him. Dallas really needs him.
Well, yeah, a lot of teams could need him, but he'll be the one
But I mean,
choosing.
I'm talking about the teams that have all the potential. They just don't have that kind of player. They don't have someone like that is that versatile in the paint.
So here's an important stat for you, Carl. James Harden, Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving. They have combined for 7 trade requests in the last 2 seasons.
Who?
Historic numbers. Um, this is what
That's
they're
more than two each.
mostly what they've accomplished. The main thing that they have done in those 2 seasons is request some trades, lose basketball games. That's sort of what I'll remember. Um,
So
so
here's devil's advocate, I guess. Were you impressed at all by Kevin Durant taking Milwaukee Bucks 7 games by himself?
he just affirmed who I thought he was. Impressed would have been win. Where what he did just showed, yeah. I mean, he ought to be coming close to winning or doing that, but he didn't prove he was a leader. He didn't prove that he's just he went back to that same OKC version of himself that makes it to the second round. You know, that's the player he's always been. The Golden State, that's the
The only
aberration.
take that I haven't heard on that topic yet. I think that's the best one I've heard because really, if you take out the things that weren't in his control, like the people around him, the people who weren't injured, or the people who were just taking games off, like Kyrie Irving, although this time he was hurt. But yeah, it's impressive. But he only has done what he's expected to do. He didn't actually win anything. I've up until this point been impressed by it, but you're right. He's only done what he's been expected to do, and his team didn't have the right people around him, and he couldn't
Yeah,
get out of the second round.
it's a brand of basketball where it just feels like we're okay losing. You know, like you took the shots, you made the right, you know, you scored your 35 points, right? But you never were really scaring anybody like you're going to win. That's what it felt like to me. So,
But well, it seems like maybe at some point here in the near future, maybe the league starts to penalize players playoff games for games missed.
mm,
Because to your point, I don't think there's enough care during the regular season. Like, all right, as long as we go 50,
yeah.
500, as long as we bat 500, then we're in the play-in. We can fight our way into the playoffs, or we'll be in the playoffs depending on how everyone else is doing.
Hmm.
But I'm sure it costs the league so much money with stars missing all the time, and not to mention the owners who have to deal with the fans and the market of the fans, like being upset that the stars are missing from games.
Well, to my mind, the Spurs kind of started that. Um, is it fair to say when they were milking the Tim Duncan years, they were doing a lot of resting. That was before they even load management was even a term. But that's when I began to
But
hear.
but
That's why I'm saying that if it happened before, tell me. But when I remember hearing about it first was when the Spurs were sitting their guys.
that is what I remember first too. But I have heard people talk about other teams in the '90s
Jordan didn't do it.
doing stuff like that. Well, Jordan individually, no. But my defense of the Spurs, though, is that they never stopped trying to win, no matter who was sitting. It
Yeah.
wasn't like they were just not caring about winning during the regular season and getting to the playoffs. They were a 500 team for 20 years, right?
Yeah. Yes, yes. And I think when they sat a Tim Duncan, it's because he didn't have anything to give that night, perhaps.
Or
You
it
know.
wasn't worth him to give whatever it was. Like, there's a cost benefit analysis
Yeah. Oh, I'm
of,
sure that
of
they
playing
I
Tim Duncan.
when I imagine the San Antonio Spurs coaching room, it seems like there's some very long calculus being played. I'm sure that they knew it was the right choice to make. So I'm not doubting them, but I'm just saying that was like maybe the beginning of the slippery slope when it's like, okay, well, we're gonna make the right choice. We're gonna sit these guys, and then everyone was like, hey, we can do that, and then they started
They
doing
just
it.
weren't smooth about it.
No, and their guys weren't old either. Um, it's like, oh, okay, we can just sit them,
Yeah.
but
But you know who? What would you? What's the word? Infamized.
mhm.
Who brought infamy to that tactic was Kawhi Leonard.
Oh yeah,
And yes, it brings us back to the Spurs, but it wasn't like the Spurs didn't want him to come back. I mean, they lost him because they wanted him to come back because Tony Parker
right,
went
right.
on the mic.
Yes,
But he really, I mean, I think he's the one who has abused resting the most.
yes, yes. Steve Kerr was asked about it, and he said no loads were managed tonight, talking about his team.
Yeah.
But yeah, oh yeah, Kawhi Leonard was scandalized. He was, and even um um what's his name, David Robinson, didn't he speak out and say that he tried to talk to him to?
I didn't hear that.
I think he tried to speak up for the Spurs and say, "Look, you need to play," and he was rebuffed. You know, um,
Oh, to Kawhi.
yes, to Kawhi.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh. No, I hadn't heard that. No, I didn't know.
Anyway,
He seems like a broken man.
Kawhi.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, well, he's done less than nothing on the Spurs. Um, I say that, and I'll take it back. I'm going to add a caveat. They keep beating the Lakers in the regular season. That's what he's done. That's the only thing he's done.
With the Clippers, you mean?
With the Clippers, yes, they continue to beat the Lakers in the regular season, and it seems like their team is maybe built for that. I don't know, but that seems to be their high point. You know, um,
They're not built for the playoffs, and they're not prepared for the playoffs at all.
no, no. Well said. No, but they are built to beat us on day one of the NBA season when we're hurt and whatever.
How much do you think LeBron cares
He
about
cares.
the regular season record between the Clippers and Lakers?
Well, the overall record, I don't know if that he cares, but he cares about the Battle of LA. He cares that fans here, there's so many people when he came here that this whole career they didn't like him. And so now he's here and he's been here for some time, and there's still people that are Lakers fans who don't like him, you know? And that's how you get those people to come on your side to win that game. Okay, so they'll lose them. And I think he cares for that reason because
Yeah,
he
yeah.
wants to be loved in LA.
Just to provide to the city.
Yeah. What have you done for me here? What have you done for me on this team? Nobody cares. So many people do not care. Whatever he's done, MVP, final MVP, championships, they don't care at all. So he wants to win that, but they've been struggling, and those games have been tight. I mean, if you look, um, to Christmas Day games and stuff like that, very winnable. They let slip away. So, um, I was upset. I cared, and I was very upset. All right, so rest of this trade stuff, guys, it's insane. Uh, well, first of all, Lakers, they let go Mo Bamba. Say a little prayer for Mo. He's gonna be okay, but he sort of worked his way out of our rotation. I wanted more out of him, and I'm sure that he feels he didn't get enough playing time, but as it worked, they just kind of coalesced without him. By the time we actually had healthy Anthony Davis, see, that was the thing. I think he was there in case something went wrong with Anthony Davis, or if he needed more playing time. Anthony Davis needed to sit down a little bit more, but it didn't pan out like that. So not a surprise they let him go.
Who's backing up AD now?
That was supposed to be the main backup there, so that we don't have one. Well, we got Tristan Thompson. Yeah, no, that was his main backup was Mo, and then that didn't ended up not being needed. Now, Wenyan Gabriel, he had some minutes too, and
Right, right.
Jared Vanderbilt, he's tall, but I mean Mo was sort of the true center behind him, and he's been let go. And then we let Malik Beasley
Let's get McGee
uh,
back.
go as well.
Lakers should get McGee back.
Yeah, yeah, could, but he never. I mean, he did. He filled it. He played his role, but I mean, I doubt they're gonna go back to him. I really do. Um, around the NBA, we've got. We're also looking to pick up Bruce Brown, Nugget.
The Nuggets.
Yeah,
Yeah, I did
uh,
hear that. And
and
take him away from the Nuggets.
it'd be nice. And then he could get some. But you know what happens to our guys though? By the time you come here, all your numbers go down. Um, so it's the lights, the bright lights, but it's what we have to deal with.
For Austin Reeves.
I know. Can you imagine him on some other team when the way he's shooting clutch like that?
Yep.
Um,
He's gonna demand a big payday.
yeah, they're gonna give it to him. I mean, I think I remember reading they're the max he's able to be given. They already said we're gonna match it, so teams already know. Don't even try.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
I'm sure he doesn't want to go anywhere.
yeah.
Um, Because I mean, who knows if all that just evaporates? He could be I don't think this, but I mean, he could turn out to be a system player, right?
So
Uh,
do you think he's really that good to give him the max that he can get? Or do you think that it's a balance between he's very good and the city loves him, we need to keep him?
I think that he just was one of those special players LeBron took under his wing and got him to play. I can rely on you to do what I need you to do for this team. That's what it is. I mean, LeBron's gotten all kind of players paid, and he's got his guys. Now Austin Reeves is one of his guys.
Mhm.
So that's the thing. When I say he could be a system player, I'm just saying by the time he's just standing on his own 2 feet, and I say he's really talented, and he is. But you just never know if he vanishes if he gets sent to some other team. In this case, LeBron wants him, and they're going to have him. So,
Mhm.
um,
Is he like a more aggressive Kyle Korver? Or do you think he's not shooting that well yet?
he's shooting real well, but what I would compare him to is some other guys that LeBron has always had some high IQ guys. In his championships that he's won, he's had some crafty players. That's where I see him filling in. Shane Battier is an example. Just some guys that you can trust with the basketball. He's not going to make a costly turnover. He can be in the game late. He can make his free throws. He can make a timely three.
J.R. Smith. Excuse me.
He's not J.R. Smith. Yeah, he's not J.R. Smith, who, ironically enough, based on what I'm saying, was one of LeBron's guys. But it's different. Uh, they did win, so that's how that ended up happening. But Austin Reeves, he can be counted on with the basketball in his hands late in the game, and that's why he's going to get paid. James Harden. Let's talk about it, Carl. Where do you think he's going to land?
I really think he's going to land in New York.
Mm,
It's the
okay.
only thing that makes sense to me, and that's not even coming from a basketball standpoint. Like, this is a guy who everyone is saying, including us last week, that he's not the number one guy, or his style of play doesn't work unless it's in Houston. And even then, it didn't work, other than when Chris Paul got him as far as they did, and then he got hurt, as he does.
Right, right.
And the Golden State Warriors were the beneficiary of a hurt Chris Paul, just like they were a beneficiary of a hurt Kawhi Leonard. I think he's going to end up in New York because he wants to be the man. He wants to run his own team. There's not many other better storied franchises than the New York Knicks. And there isn't a star in Brooklyn anymore. So he's got all of New York just by being the number one guy on the Knicks. And you mentioned the clubs. That's the whole part of it. I
Sure.
mean, you
Yeah,
can't go to
they're
LA to the Clippers, right? And
hmm
LeBron James is there, and AD is there, and Kawhi Leonard's there, and Paul George is there, and anybody else, all the stars, everybody is there. You don't really stand out among the crowd
hmm
in LA if you're James Harden.
Yes. I was thinking about that, like how like we follow basketball really closely and we know what's going on. The hoes also know. They know that the Nuggets won. There may be
There's
more.
a whole side of the NBA that you can find on Instagram.
Yes. And James Harden knows it. And it would be nice to be the king of New York, wouldn't it?
Right,
Yeah.
right.
I mean, that's just, I buy that. Now, the Clippers want him. However, I mean, what I'm seeing here is that he's seems to be gunning for LA and saying somebody make a deal. I just don't think the Lakers are going to offer anything that's going to come up with 35 million. They're not.
I don't think the Lakers want him.
They don't want him and they don't have 35 million. The Clippers now it would be very Clipper of them to make a foolish trade like this. So,
Yeah, and just I mean, any trade they make that involves Paul George, it's a deficit. It's a net negative.
right.
Everything they gave away for Paul George, they're never going to get as much back,
Mm,
and they haven't gotten anything from him that says he's worth that much.
right. Well, yeah, the Knicks are a good team, and they would get a lot out of Harden. I don't know where that takes them, but I mean, it it's not like he's joining a bottom feature team, and they're a playoff team that would be made better with him, and they could be one of the best teams in the East, especially if they make another move or two on top of that.
Oh, they will definitely be challenging the Sixers. They will definitely be challenging Miami. And I mean, yeah, you're right. Possibly even the other two best ones, Milwaukee and the Celtics. Um, that's a really good team in New York. It's those all the young players there are really really good. And I thought that they did really well, but they just don't have a star yet.
Yeah,
And I think James Harden can see that he can take the Knicks to the next level, a franchise like that playing in the Garden, and he can be the king of New York at all the clubs. If he's making the same money and he gets a longer term deal, which the Knicks would definitely do, they don't have anybody else. The Clippers
right,
are less likely to give him a long term deal, given what they're going through with Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, and Harden's not super young anymore.
right. Well, again, if it's foolish, I bet the Clippers are trying to do it. So, uh, I'm assuming that's where he's going to wind up if they're trying to do it because they've got money and they've got the ability to pull off something.
Where has their money gotten them though?
It's gotten them billboards around town. It's
They need
gotten
to spend
them,
their money on their scouting and their medical department.
yes,
They should have known Kawhi Leonard wasn't going to be a robot anymore,
hmm
or at least they should have known how to fix the robot.
yeah. We don't have the technology. We can't rebuild him. Uh,
No, he's broken.
Carl, the CBA, I really needed to explain to me how is this changing the NBA?
Well, in a general sense, it's changing the NBA with a new tournament in season.
Mm,
This is something that you and I haven't talked about, but in general, it's affecting the NBA with this new tournament season that's supposedly going to be introduced this upcoming season, 23-24, and it'll be separating all of the teams into 6 5 team groups, and they'll all be playing each other in this in-season tournament. So that's something that we're gonna want to just keep track of and watch and see how that plays out this season if they actually do implement it.
mm,
The new season schedule should probably be coming out like August 20th, sometime in that range is typically when it comes out. That's what they're expecting, anyways. So we'll just have to find out then if they actually include that into the season. On the team level, it's affecting not just the players but also GMs, like we
mm.
alluded to earlier, because of their new caps and the aprons that they've implemented. There's a first apron, a second apron, and it just determines the amount of tax you're paying on your salaries. It's going to be a lot harder, more difficult for teams to have 3 stars making a lot of money.
Mm.
And I think the idea is to just spread out the talent a little bit better across the league and not have owners with a lot more money like Ballmer in LA versus maybe OKC or Memphis or Indiana being able to just buy players and spend their money freely. So I think it's going to balance the NBA overall, but players I think also are going to start making money less quickly. It's going to slow down how quickly players make as much money as they have been making because teams are going to be under hard caps.
Mm.
They're going to be insisting on if you want to build something that is a competitive championship team, everyone's going to kind of have to sacrifice,
Yeah,
or we can't sign these big contracts because we're going to need some supporting cast. But the thing is, everybody's going to be in the same boat, right? So if no teams can really afford to get great players under the salaries they need them at, then everybody's going to just be in that same position. Like one of my questions is are the benches going to now be more subpar? Are we just going to see great players in the starting lineup and then G League on the bench so that teams can fill out their roster? I just don't know. And then from the GM standpoint, for example, the Warriors. I think that it sucks for them because teams that have actually built and developed their players through the draft, like the Warriors have, there should be some kind of secondary rules for that. I think there's a huge difference between someone like Ballmer going out and buying a star and someone drafting a player, developing that player, and 7 years later they're a star.
Yeah.
Like, you should not be taxed the same. If you're going to implement rules like, oh, well, within your first 3 years, your rookie contract, and then you can sign your 7-year deal. But if it's with the same team, you get a lot more money. It's like you're forcing them to pay the players more money based off of the schedule you have, but you're trying to hinder them from spending money once they've already spent the money they have to retain the player. Does that make sense?
Yes, it totally makes sense. They're being penalized because
they're good at what they do.
Developed them into great players that had value.
Yes. But they wouldn't have the value they have if the NBA didn't set the maxes for the salaries they could receive from those teams as high as they do.
Right.
Yeah, so if you can
think about it, I wonder if they consider that.
I'm sure. I'm not the first one to think about it. There's some reason why they did things the way that they did. I just think it's unfair to teams who are doing it the right way.
And I'll close with this. The new CBA, I'm reading it now, requires each team, Carl, has to spend 90% of their salary cap, that's $122.4 million, by the first day of the regular season. There's 5 teams that are in that position. San Antonio, it's got $26 million to spend by the first day of the season, or they lose it.
That's not really a star.
No, it's not quite a star.
They're gonna have to get rid of some players if they want to bring somebody in, but I don't think they would want to with the young players that they have. Maybe a vet.
Yeah,
I see them bringing in a star right now.
Well, regardless, they will be spending $26 million. I'm sure of it. Smart as they are, they've got to spend. They got to figure out some way to spend $26 million.
Yeah, that gives us something to look forward to. That we know for a fact that these teams that you're talking about are going to have some changes before the season starts.
That's Houston, $50 million. Houston has to spend. San Antonio 26, Sacramento 24.5, Indiana 18.5, Detroit 14.5. So, yeah, you're right there. 26 million.
What does it talk about? What happens if they don't spend that much by the first? Are they not allowed to spend it during the season, or are they penalized for it?
Requires each team to spend 90% of the salary cap by the first day of the regular season. So I think that money would be locked. If they don't spend it, it's like they don't have it.
Wow.
They'll have 10% of their salary cap to play with after the first day of the season.
Wow. I'm excited then. We'll see what moves come up.
Yeah, that's going to be great. We can talk about that.
Lakers are tapped out, right?
We're tapped out. Yeah, we're tapped out. We have nothing to play with. We're going to have to use what we've got. We're going to have to sign the guys that we already got. And I'm excited to see them run it back. I mean, obviously, as we said last week, you run this team back with LeBron in a healthy foot. I like it. So that's a big if. Will he be healthy?
Anthony Davis. I mean, even with a busted foot, I still think LeBron is going to be able to take a team to the finals. But if AD is playing every other game well,
yeah,
it's not going to work.
Right. Well, just when we're talking about the supporting guys, I think we have the guys. They really gelled in the second half of the season. And I don't think that's the case. You could make the case that this is the strongest supporting cast LeBron has had because he has dragged some teams around.
All right, man. We got summer league next week.
Around the corner.
That starts on the 7th. No. California Classic on the 3rd and the 5th. We'll have 2 days of games.
Actual
And
basketball.
after on the 5th is going to be our next show after the Spurs and Lakers game. So it's going to be a late show, but I think it's going to be really fun to talk after a game.
Yes, we're gonna be right here.
We'll look forward to what's happening there. We'll also talk about anything else that happens in the trades in the next week. And man, basketball it's just a teaser, really, isn't it? Just we're gonna get a couple weeks, 3 weeks of summer league, and then we got to wait till October.
I just want to wet my beak. I want some summer league. I want to see the basketball go in the hoop.
Yeah.
See what trades go down. I want to see it, Carl.
All right. Well, we'll talk about it next week, July 5th. So thanks everybody for watching, and we'll see you later. Later, William.
Thank you. Thank you, Carl.